Let's watch this video. Dragon's Dogma 2 looks incredible. I never played the first game, but I saw the trailer for the second game and actually it looks really good.
Man, let me tell you, Dragon's Dogma, dude, this original game is often considered a bit of a cult classic. A really, really good game. Lots of people enjoyed, but for a variety of reasons, never really broke into the mainstream. It's also yet another example of a game that received pretty lukewarm reviews from critics when it launched, but fans absolutely adored. And it's for those reasons that it was a bit of a slow burn.
Okay, wait 1 second. I need to remember that I'm in wrong category. Good. Let's continue.
The game sold roughly 1 million copies in its first year of release, which was
Not bad.
2012, but thanks to its positive word of mouth over the years, that number has
13 years
climbed
ago,
to
huh?
7 millions in
Oh,
the
wow.
decade since. Every single person I know, actually, who has played Dragon's Dogma just gushes about how much they love the game. And much of that is due to the fact that at the time, and still even today, they had a rather unique blending of systems and mechanics seen in other single-player RPGs, but just came together in a
Okay.
really cool way. Great and challenging action combat that was pretty reminiscent to Dark Souls, although with the notable exclusion of lock-on, it was a solid, well put together
Oh,
action
wow.
combat system and in a much
Hydra. I
larger
think that's-
world.
that's
It had
cool.
monster mounting, similar to that seen in Shadow of the Colossus or in Monster Hunter,
Monster
letting you
Hunter,
grab and
yeah.
climb pretty much anywhere on any enemy larger than a human.
That's
There was an
broken, holy
interesting
fuck.
hybrid class system where you would combine multiple traditional RPG roles into one, and the pawns, these AI-controlled companions that would learn and grow as they adventure alongside you, being able to actually
like
help
Final
guide
Fantasy,
you, help solve puzzles, locate objectives, and even find enemy weak points. Companions that don't suck are basically what pawns are, and there's also a multiplayer component to that as well, kind of, which I'll explain. And then lastly,
Okay.
the game just created a really great sense of adventure. It's one of those classic RPG titles with the challenging combat, health that doesn't regenerate, and a night cycle that not only impacts your vision, but also the type of enemies you encounter. All of this made
I
for
like that.
a really exciting feel when you went out into the wild, a sense of adventure that forced you to prepare, to play carefully, and to revisit town or camps often when you ran low on health and resources. All around,
Okay.
Dragon's Dogma and its remaster
Wait.
subtitled
Isn't this beast on Dark Souls or Berserk the same like dragon with not dragon, a lion with the snake tail? That's cool.
Dark Arisen were fantastic games with really cool features, all of which will act as a baseline starting
Oh,
point
shit.
for their upcoming sequel. Everything that they've shown so far for
This
Dragon's
is
Dogma
the
2
second game. It's fucking amazing. By the way, I'm pretty sure he's gonna keep showing clips and shit about the first and the second game. So I'm gonna move my camera here so we can see them up. The
It looks
minimap.
like the original, but way better. With over
Yeah,
a
it
decade
does
between the
look way
two,
better.
things seem to have been much improved and expanded upon. And I, for
Holy.
one, am incredibly excited. This is one of my most anticipated games of 2024. So let's take a look
Oh,
at
it's
some
for
of what we
next
can
year.
expect from Dragon's Dogma 2. Now, much like the original, this will be a single-player, open-world, narrative-driven action RPG. The game is going to center around going out, adventuring, engaging in the challenging combat, and exploring a massive, immersive world. Most of the biggest standout features from the first game will be making a return, but again, better. For one, it will have
Makes
character
sense.
creation that actually matters. This is not just about, hey, how do I want my character to look? What do I want their facial features, their hair color to be, their body type? No, in Dragon's Dogma 2, your physical appearance, your height, your weight, your build have direct
What?
impacts on the gameplay. If you want to play an oversized,
wow.
super strong, brutish type, well, that will mean you can
Oh, so I guess you have to make your character small and thin to use like to be like a rogue. The same as he's showing it here. If you wanna be like a warrior, you make a big beefy dude that can use two-handed swords or shit like that.
and equip
Oh
heavier
wow.
items. You will have more carry capacity, and you can even throw things a further distance. But as a result, your stamina and speed will take a hit, and you'll have trouble getting through certain small areas. On the extreme flip side of that, if you choose to play a smaller character with a slighter build, you'll carry and be able to equip less, but you'll also be more nimble, be quicker, have more stamina, and
Makes
can
sense, I
physically
guess.
fit through tighter spaces that larger
Yeah,
characters can't. It is a
and you're
really neat
faster.
system that makes you think a bit more during character creation, as it's not just about your aesthetic appearance, but will have direct gameplay implications. Then there is the combat. The
I
game is
like
going
that.
to feature a dynamic combat system with loads of variables, and again, a lot of things have been improved. It is similar, but better. It looks like they made big strides in animations, and the game just visually looks better, of course. Also, making hits feel more impactful. I have noticed some obvious implementation of hit stop for bigger, stronger attacks. This is used in games to create a nice feel and tempo to combat. It seems to be more exaggerated here and looks like it will feel better to play as a result. It's got mostly standard action RPG combat mechanics. There are light and heavy attacks with combo chains for
Damn.
both. You can jump, dash, and grab. That grab being used for climbing or even wrangling enemies. We have seen in
grabbed the
numerous clips
fucking-
characters actually picking up and physically
Oh,
tossing
wow.
smaller foes. Many enemy types now also have a downstate mechanic where once their health gets low enough, they'll be staggered, letting you perform a execute or finisher. And you will have 4 skill slots for attacks and spells on top of 1 vocation action, which are these unique mechanics for each of the game's classes. So far, we know
Oh,
that the
damn,
fighter
what- oh
has
my
the
God, what the
vocation
hell is that,
action
a
being able
mage?
to block. The archer can zoom in and manually aim, and the thief will have a bonus sidestep in addition to the dash. Not sure at the moment about the vocation action for the
What
mage.
the
I was
fuck
unable
in the
to see
Sonic
any details on that,
is
but
that?
specific actions for your vocations, as well as a whole bunch of spells and abilities to choose from. Which, speaking of which, let's talk about vocations. Now, vocation is just another word for character class. There will be 4 starter vocations, letting you select the base archetype you want to fill. These are pretty traditional RPG roles. You've got the fighter, who excels in melee combat, wielding a sword and shield. This will be the class on the front lines, taking and dishing out damage, protecting the team. The archer specializes in long-range attacks with the bow and arrow. They can manually aim to target enemies in high positions, pick off low health ones, or directly hit weak points from a distance. There's the thief, who is all about speed, dealing rapid and consecutive strikes with daggers while also having high mobility. They can jump in, quickly attack, then dash away. They're also great at mounting the larger enemies. On top of that, thieves have the ability to pickpocket. Awesome. And then there is the mage. As I mentioned, I'm not sure about their vocation mechanic, but we do know basically they'll be all about dealing elemental damage as well as supporting the team. So they can launch magical elemental attacks at enemies. They can enchant ally weapons, like adding fire to bows or swords. And they can also cast healing abilities like healing circles or direct healing. For the most part as well, magic in Dragon's Dogma is all about the stronger your spell, the longer incantation or cast time that it has. So it creates this moment of vulnerability, but then dishing out massive amounts of damage. There are also advanced vocations, which are like combinations of things. So far we know about the magic archer. In addition to having ranged attacks, they also have healing and powerful offensive elemental spells, like the ability to unleash a massive AoE, dealing big damage in exchange for reducing their own health. And there's also the Mystic Spear Hand, who combines melee and magic. They're said to be
stuff from the archer. That looks fucking cool.
A well-balanced class at any distance. The duo spear is used for close range attacks, while magic for long range. They will have spells that do things like lockdown and crowd control enemies, or actually able to pick up and hurl objects, which is neat. Now, those are the 6 that we know about so far. It is likely that more are coming. In the original Dragon's Dogma, they had 9 vocations in total. I'm hoping that we eventually see more in the sequel. As is, though, each class will have a lot of potential variety with the weapon skills, core skills, and augments, as well as the ability to mix and match these however you please. It's one of those things where no 2 characters of the same vocation, of the same class, are going to be exactly alike because there are so many choices to pick from. Developer has said that organizing your party is
replayability to the game. You can play multiple classes and feel completely different, like a new game. I like that.
Essential when embarking on each quest. You'll want to not only pick the right combination of classes, having a nice mix of everything to deal with any
What is
potential
that?
situations you come against, but also you'll want to have teammates with the proper knowledge, which brings us to the pawn system, one of the coolest things about Dragon's Dogma. This is one of the things that anyone who played the original game tends to talk about and love so much. Pawns are basically just AI companions, but they are so much more unique and capable than what you're probably used to from AI companions in RPGs.
Wow.
So your main character, who you play as, is the Arisen, and the whole story about this game is like a dragon stole your heart and you're back and you're like bound to the dragon. And not going to get into any of the story stuff, but yes, you play as an Arisen, the main character. You'll customize yourself both visually as well as the gameplay implications that has, as I mentioned, and then also picking your vocation. But
is a companion system like Dragon Age? I played Inquisition, the third game, that you can change your allies' skills, um, weapons, and shit like that. And you can have them do something specific. Is this the same or is different?
But then there is also your main pawn. Now, this is a single companion whom you can customize as well with the exact same level of customization as your main character. And they are going to be with you at all times. It's going to be someone who is constantly by your side throughout the entire playthrough. They will tag along for every quest, every combat encounter, and go on all of the exploration adventures that you do. Now, in that process, they do the traditional RPG stuff. They'll level up. You'll get new gear to put them on, select what kind of specialization you want. They just all around become stronger. But on top of that, there is all the knowledge that they gain. And this isn't just like some journal you fill up with like you killed 50 wolves and now you know more about wolves. No, if you go out and you kill a pack of wolves, if you clear caves of goblins, if you track down a flock of griffins, whatever you do, they gain knowledge on how to more effectively find and fight those enemies. But also, they gain knowledge on everything else you do, like quests you complete, NPCs you chat with, bosses you fight. And here is where this actually gets interesting. So you have your main pawn, like I mentioned, the one that you made and is by your side at all times, but also you will hire 2 additional pawns to join your party of 4, and those pawns are ones who were created by other players and adventured with them, going along their side and gaining their own separate pool of knowledge. And this is what makes that so cool. If you've got a difficult quest or a boss fight, or if you need to farm a specific type of enemies, or
you can get one NPC that knows the fight, that knows the boss, and can kill it fast and easier.
Track down an NPC or look for some kind of treasure or resource, you can search for another player's pawn who have already done those things, add them to your roster, and it will be a massive help.
I've never heard of a system like that before. That's cool.
Pawns who have already done a quest can act as a tour guide, showing you the path to its location. Ones who have already fought a boss can clue you in with tips on its elemental weaknesses or where exactly the weak points are on its body. You can issue a help command if at any point you are stuck, and then any pawn on your team who has knowledge of that situation because they've experienced it before. Like, for example, if you're in a cave and there's a chest that's out of reach and one of your pawns has already gone through this and they have this springboard ability, they will lower their shield for you to step on before launching you upward towards the chest. So your main character and the pawn, you do your stuff, the pawn gains knowledge. You can also put that pawn online for other people to use in their party, and then whatever your pawn does with that player in their party, it transfers that knowledge back to you. It is a really, really cool and unique system because you can take advantage of this. You can mix and match and pick pawns for all these individual situations, and a big part of the game is being able to freely swap those 2 extra spots for pawns depending on whatever it is you're coming up against. It is this whole integrated system of like cumulative knowledge between you and your pawn, and then all the pawns of other players, and then what your pawn gains when they play with other players. It's a really, really, really cool system, and actually makes for companions who don't suck, basically. On top of all of this knowledge sharing that happens, it looks like they've done some big improvements to pawn AI and upping their capabilities and potential. For one, they've said that they're going to be much better allies in combat, reacting more intelligently to whatever it is you're up against. For example, pawns can launch each other in order to mantle larger enemies. Like literally, you will see one pawn pick up and hurl another one so that they can grab onto a monster at a higher location. They're also periodically going to alert you to points of interest, paths, and hidden areas that you might otherwise miss. If you fall from a great height, like say you drop from hanging onto a boss monster or a harpy that takes you off into the distance and you lose your grip, the pawns can catch you, breaking your fall rather than like breaking your legs. Short of playing with other real humans, the pawn system is one of the greatest AI companion features I've ever seen in the original Dragon's Dogma, and it looks like they've really improved it and added to it in Dragon's Dogma 2. I'm super pumped to see. All right, next up we've got the world. You know, in the original Dragon's Dogma, they did a really good job of delivering this deeply detailed, immersive fantasy world. This looks to be even
the same
better
or even
in the
better
sequel.
in
In fact,
game.
they have said that not only is it roughly 4 times the original size, but there will be a lot more location variety and different potential interactions. Also, the entire game is now seamless with 0 loading screens between buildings, towns, or zones. Now, from
Tell that to fucking Starfield with all the fucking loading streams that they have there, like 1 minute loading streams. Fucking disgusting.
the raw gameplay footage I've seen, I do want to point out as well something that I was really enjoying. The scaling seems very well done. Looking at the size of buildings, trees, creatures, even the mountains off of the distance, it all looks incredibly immersive. I've played so many games where something about the scaling feels off. Either the character or the environment is too big or too small, or something just isn't right about that part of the game, but it is looking great here, and that alone I feel like adds a lot of immersion. The game world is also going to be highly interactive. There'll be many parts and things in the environment that can be changed based on your actions. Like if you throw an explosive barrel at a dam, this will cause the water to rush out and have an actual physical impact, washing away anything along its path. In some footage, we've seen enemies get washed away, like this giant ogre that got swept away once you opened up the tide of the river. Really cool physical interaction there. You can do things like you opened up the tide of the river. Really cool physical interaction there. You can do things like destroy bridges, cutting off any path for anyone who might be chasing you. We saw examples of being able to pull large creatures' legs, tripping them up, and if you do this, say, near a ravine, they will catch themselves. In doing so, forming a new organic bridge for you to cross. Pretty cool stuff, and that's just some of the few things we've seen so far. The original game had a lot of cool creature and environment interactions. This, again, looks to be expanded upon. In general, they said the choices you make will have consequences on the world. As a result, no 2 playthroughs will be the same. This applies not only to like story decisions, but also what you do out in the world, the physical impact that you have on the world and how that changes things. Let's talk about enemies. There will be tons of different fantasy creatures and enemies for you to encounter in the world. These include the traditional gambit of like bandits, griffins, dragons, goblins, cyclops, minotaurs, harpies, sphinx, gorgon, ogres, golems, all sorts of different stuff. Lots of different interactions between these things as well, between enemies and wildlife. Similar to say like Monster Hunter, you're going to witness turf wars between creatures. We've seen griffins swooping down to scoop up prey, or multiple instances of creatures fighting each other over a potential meal. Some really cool interactions here. But you can do something like grab the feet of harpies, and then you can ascend or descend with them to navigate difficult terrain. Or when fighting one of these massive griffins.
My man is fucking UK, and then holy fuck, this is UK gameplay right here. What the
they can occasionally flee away, and if you are mantled onto them holding on, you can actually ride them. They will take you back to their nest where the treasure is hidden, and might even call in a mate, allowing you to fight them both at once, and if successful, getting a lot more reward as a result. Tons of cool interactions here between the creatures themselves, between you and the creatures. All of this also plays into some of the other really interesting features in this game. So the monster climbing, this was a really important and highlighted mechanic of the original that has returned. So you can basically just jump up and grab onto any of the larger enemies in the game. And then when mounted, you're able to pretty much freely move around, like climbing up its leg, around its back, towards its head, stabbing at any weak points. But the monsters will react to this. And I gotta say, from watching some raw gameplay, the animations, the attacks, the moveset variety all look really impressive of the players, but also of the monsters. Monsters will directly react to someone holding on to them, like rolling around to try to get you off, or swinging their arm to try to swat you away. We've seen monsters actually pick up characters, physically holding them and then like slamming them on the ground or tossing them off in the distance into a river. It's basically a lot of what you see in games like Monster Hunter, but in this massive open world RPG.
No, but it's a little bit different. I played Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter is a little bit, at least World, Monster Hunter World. It's a little bit clunky, I think is the word. It's a little bit like, ugh, you feel heavy. This game, your character feels like it's fucking Assassin's Creed right here.
which is great. Just some real high quality looking stuff. Day night cycle plays a pretty big role, like the original. Nighttime is very dark. Like you can't see anything if you don't have a light source type of dark. And I personally love this. I think it creates a super immersive environment when balanced with options for players to get light sources and help navigate this. So you've got like torches and lanterns, but also various spells and even gear that can be used to illuminate your path. There will be certain more powerful than average enemies that only come out at night. Things like risen skeletons, zombies, ghosts that will like swarm around you in this spectral entity. You can find campsite locations, and those can be used to either recover your health for a while, or you can pass the time until morning if the night seems to be too daunting. There's also an RP mechanic to this, where while you're hanging out by the fireside, you can chat with your allies. With things like how they do the environmental scaling, the big seamless open world, all of the creature interactions, the turf wars, the super dark nights with unique creatures that come out, all of this really adds to such an immersive world that already was so great in the original, and that seems to be just like magnified tenfold here in the sequel. And all this stuff leads to me being very excited. Like I said at the top, this is one of my most anticipated games of 2024. I absolutely cannot wait. And one thing about it is it feels like we've got
one of my most anticipated games. Like, wow,
got a handful of
what I just saw there, that was amazing.
Games over the past couple of years that really feel like they're bucking the trend of like modern day game design. And I'm not just talking about cash shops and monetization, but how these games are built, the types of worlds and experiences they're delivering. And Dragon's Dogma 2, like the original, really seems to be leaning hard into that old school, traditional RPG sense of adventure and exploration. And I feel like it's not too often that you get a game that comes along and really does this very well. And obviously, haven't played the sequel yet. This is just initial impressions from what we've seen and what we've heard about the game. But given how good the original one, how beloved the original one is, and how this seems to be just more but better of that, dude, count me in. I cannot wait. I am super excited for this. Really looking forward. Can't wait to see and learn more, and can't wait to actually play it. So there you go. That's what we know about Dragon's Dogma 2. In terms of when it's coming out, there's no set release date. They've said sometime in 2024. It's going to be PC and console, coming to the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. Really looking forward to it. Can't wait to see and learn more. That's all there is to it. Let me know what you think about Dragon's Dogma 2. Are you excited? Why? Why not? Are one of those people who doesn't like get excited about games? I tell you, dude, sometimes I make videos like this and I'm like, hey, check out this game. This looks cool. I'm looking forward to this.
And then they try the game and
like,
it's trash.
oh, you're just like, you're always looking forward to games. Yeah, that's why I do this job. If I didn't look forward to games, I'd do something else. I've said this time and time again, but like, holy crap, yes, I look forward to games. I like games. I like gaming. That's why I'm here. Yeah? All right. Well, anyway, that's it. That's it for me. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time. Take it easy, guys.
That was a great video. I was not hyped for this game. Now I am. And a lot. I kind of want to play the first game. I imagine it's in Steam. So I guess I have access to it. Yeah, that was good. Damn, that was fucking good.